So greetings students. Now we are going to talk about the permanent tissues. The permanent tissues are those which have stopped dividing and have differentiated to two particular functions. Now the simple permanent tissue is a type of permanent tissue as well as the complex permanent tissue. Now simple permanent tissues are those in which all the cells are of same types, and the complex permanent tissue will have cells which are of different types. So that's why the name simple and complex. Here simple permanent tissue is of three different types, or this kind of tissues, because they will have only one kind of cell, so it can be made up either of parenchyma cells, or it can be made up of collenchyma cells, or it can be made up of sclerenchyma cells. So either of the three can be present in this kind of tissue. Now here the parenchyma cells, how do they look like? What is the structure? Let us discuss them one by one. So the structure, we'll discuss the first. They are, the shape of this kind of cell is polygonal, spherical, and also isodiametric, sometimes isodiametric. Even there are some cells which appear star shaped. It is present in banana and chana plant, where the shape of this kind of parenchyma cell, it is star shaped. Okay, so there are various shapes available in the parenchyma cells. Now when we talk about the cell wall is thin. So thin cell wall made of cellulose. It has cellulose. Cellulose provides the strength, rigidity and support to the cell, and also it has a little bit of elasticity. So there is also found the presence of pectin materials. Okay. Then next it will have nucleus, and there will be a large vacuole. Nucleus present, that means the cell is alive. Then there are large vacuoles. Now some of these parenchyma cells, they will also perform photosynthesis. So those cells which will perform photosynthesis among the parenchyma cells, they are given a special name which is called as the chlorenchyma cells. So there will be plastids present. Plastids will be present. Okay, and they also store large amount of food. Now what is the appearance? Let me draw a few diagrams. So some of them, they may appear polygonal with many faces. Okay, 12 to 13 faces, 12, 13 or 14 phases may be present. So very thin cell wall, it has got very thin cell wall like that. Then there will be some extracellular or intracellular spaces also found. There will be some intracellular spaces. As you can see, when I am drawing the cells, I am not making them very tightly packed. So here we can see that the cells are showing some space in between. I am trying to draw a very thin cell wall. So like this, thin cell wall, and there will be some intercellular space also present. So these are the let me mark it here itself. Large intercellular space. These are the intercellular spaces in between the cells. In between 2-3 cells, the space that is present is called as the intercellular space. And what will be the function of this kind of cells? As you know, some of them will perform the photosynthesis, which are called as a chlorenchyma. So chlorenchyma, as in chlorophyll, chlorenchyma performs photosynthesis. Then there is another modification of this kind of cells which is found in the aquatic plant. So in those aquatic plants, they have large air spaces in between. These intercellular spaces in those aquatic plants, they will have air-filled spaces. So because of these air-filled spaces, they will acquire a lot of buoyancy. That means the parts of the plant which will have this kind of air spaces will be able to float in the water. So that is another function in aquatic plants. Parenchyma is present. Those kind of modified parenchyma are called as parenchyma. As in air, so parenchyma helps in floating. So it will be present in the stem and leaf of such plants. For example, lotus or water lily. In them, parenchyma is found. Then they will also help in providing softness and rigidity to the plant. Softness as well as rigidity to the plant. Okay, and this kind of tissue will be present wherever a little bit of packaging is required. So it is also like a packaging tissue. So wherever a little bit of filling is required and empty space is there, so all those places will be filled with this packaging material or the parenchyma tissue. So hope you have understood how this looks like, what is the important structural component as well as the functional component. Thank you. So greetings students. Now our next topic is of the collenchyma cells. Now the collenchyma cells, they are also called as mechanical tissues. And as you know from our previous class that the parenchyma cells are the packaging tissue. Now what is the structure of the collenchyma cells? How do they look like? So if I draw them, it will appear polygonal. So they will be polygonal, slightly roundish sometimes, okay, like this. And the main feature is their cell wall. The cell wall is composed of cellulose as well as pectin, and this thickening becomes very much towards the corners. Towards the corners, the thickenings appear more. So the cells will appear like this, and then there will be very little intercellular spaces. So the cells, I am trying to draw them with a bigger, with thicker cell wall. So they have many sides, that's why they are called as polygonal. So you can see there are little bit of intercellular space in between the cell, little bit may be present, not as much as the parenchyma cells. So this is how they look like, and towards the corners you find there is more thickening. Cell wall is thick and it is composed of cellulose plus pectin. Pectin makes it very elastic. Wherever pectin will be present, the compound makes the cells very elastic. Okay, so cellulose will give it the rigidity, strength, pectin, and also there is hemicellulose present. Now due to this arrangement, the cell wall becomes very strong. It provides a lot of strength. That's why it is called as a mechanical tissue. And because of the pectin present, it will become very elastic and stretchable kind of a tissue. Now because of this nature, this pectin present, we see that it is present in the stem, and because of its presence, the stem is able to bend. Not to a great extent, but little bit it can bend. Whenever the wind blows or any storm or cyclone comes, then it can bend a little bit, and again when the wind stops, then it can stand erect again. So this property is because of the presence of pectin in the cell wall, and cellulose, hemicellulose provided the mechanical strength and rigidity to the cell wall. Now the next point is that they may have large vacuole because they are doing photosynthesis also. So plastids, and in some cases wherever this cell is present near the outer boundary of the stem, so that the sunlight is available to it. If the sunlight is available, then they will be able to perform photosynthesis. So in that case, the plastid will be also present. And if the plastid is present, that means for photosynthesis they will require large amount of water, and which will be stored in large vacuoles. So plastids and large vacuoles are present. And the thickening of the cell wall is more towards the corner. So this is important to mention. Thickening in cell wall is more at corners. Alright, then intercellular spaces little. So little intercellular spaces. Now what is the function? As we have already understood that they provide mechanical strength. So that will be one of the functions. So one of the functions is provides mechanical strength. Now because of this, sometimes what happens as children, what I used to do, as child I used to just try to bend the branch, and I wanted to break off that branch, but many times I could not break it off. It was so tightly present with it was so tightly attached that I could not break it. So that time I did not know, but now I realize that this was due to the presence of this collenchyma. So collenchyma made the branch so strong and that I was not able to break it off. Okay, so provides mechanical strength, provides elasticity. So second one, elasticity to the stem and branches. Okay, also performs photosynthesis in many cases. So hope you have understood the structure and function. Thank you very much. So greetings student. Now our next topic is the sclerenchyma cells. The sclerenchyma cells is a part of a simple parenchyma tissue, and the sclerenchyma cells are all dead cells. Now if I write about its structure, how does it look like? The cell wall is made up of cellulose and lignin. So the cell wall is made up of cellulose, which provides it strength, and there is lignin, which makes it more stronger, as well as it also does not allow any water or air to enter inside the cell. Now in the absence of air and water, the cell looks dead or cell becomes dead. There are various shapes and sizes in the sclerenchyma tissues. Basically sclerenchyma tissue is also divided into two types. One is called as the fibers and the other is called as the sclerids. Now the fibers in sclerid, the fibers are made out of the meristematic tissues, and the sclerids are made out of the parenchyma cells. Now how does they look like? If it is a fiber, then it will appear elongated in shape like this, a long elongated cell, and this elongated cell, it will have a very thick cell wall. It will have a thick cell wall which is made up of the cellulose and lignin. So it will be very thick cell wall. Now the second point is that they do not have any nucleus, no cytoplasm, everything has dried up. So inside we will be called as lumen, because no cytoplasm is there, lumen, and this lumen is almost dry. So there will be dry lumen, and this cell wall is very thick and does not allow any air, oxygen, carbon dioxide, anything to be exchanged or water to be exchanged. So this, because of this, that because of the dry lumen, the cell has died. In the initial stage, it may be alive. In the initial stage, when it has just divided and formed a sclerenchyma, that time it may have been alive, but later on when it matures, it surely dies up. And this is how a fiber cells look like. Now if it is a sclerid cell which is made up of the parenchyma, then it will appear to have various shapes. Sometimes they are roundish like this, okay, and inside the lumen has dried up, the dried lumen. So because of this, the whole cytoplasm and all shrink, and it gives an appearance like this, okay, with very thick cell wall. So very thick cell wall, and then the lumen is very small, occupying very little space, and dried up, dead cells, okay. So it may appear sometimes like this also. Then what is the function of this kind of cells? The function is obviously protection, because they are very strong, so they will be to provide strength, and whenever protection is required in whichever part of the plant, such as in the plant, the protection will be required by the embryos, is not it? That's why the seed is coated with this kind of sclerenchyma cells, because the embryo inside the seed will require a lot of protection. So nuts and seeds, they will have a layer of the sclerenchyma cells around them as a seed coat. Also it is present around the xylem and phloem. We know xylem and phloem will be transporting food and water to the all the plant parts. That's why to protect such sensitive tissues, what they require is the sclerenchyma cells. So they will provide strength and protection even in the veins of the leaves, okay, because in the veins of the leaves only runs the xylem and the phloem. So it provides strength, provide protection, and location you can write where it is present. In seed coats of fruits and nuts. Then in some kind of fruits also. For example, when we eat pears, we find some gritty things or sandy thing which in our mouth. So those grittiness that we feel in our mouth, that is due to the sclerenchyma cells which are present in that fruit. So it is present in certain fruits also. In leaf vein. Also, the husk of the coconut is actually the part that we are eating, that is the seed. Inside the seed we are eating, and around it is covered with the sclerenchyma cells. So the husk of the coconut, it is made up of sclerenchyma cells. Hope this topic is clear to you. Thank you very much.